Rugby World Cup 2027 draw has been made, folks. Who are the favourites for this competition? Let's have a look at some odds taken from some bookies, so take them with a hefty degree of caution, but we've chucked them into a percentage. We're going to have a look and see who the favourites are, and if those favourites or second favourites, third favourites, how have they changed since 2023? Because way back when, after South Africa won that World Cup in France, we had a look at the odds because they were already taking money on this World Cup back then. Which teams have shifted, who is up and who is down. Now, these logos I've got on the board, they're not in the pools that they are in. These are world rankings order for the moment. Remember, they banded them. Band 1, Band 2, Band 3, Band 4. All these teams in the bottom two rows, your Band 3 and Band 4 teams, I'm not even going to put their percentages on the board because they're all less than a percent. They're basically all at 1,000 to 1 except for Tonga and Samoa. Samoa is actually given better odds than Tonga despite being a lower ranked side in terms of the bandings. Tonga and Samoa tend to field not the strongest sides in the Pacific Nations Cup, and if they get to play in July or November at all, but come the World Cup they'll have players available, so they are predicted to be a little bit stronger, but nothing much doing for them. And then for the Band 2 sides, there are 3 teams who are given less than a 1% chance. Who do you think they are? If you guessed Japan, if you guessed Italy, and if you guessed Wales, you would be correct. Interestingly, Wales are ranked still slightly ahead of Italy according to the bookies. Remember, Wales's pool has England, Tonga, and Zimbabwe. The Italian pool has the box, plus Georgia and Romania. And then the Japanese have got that kind of Pacific Nations Cup pool with USA, Samoa, and France in there as well. So these are your least favoured of your teams who are at least in those kind of Band 2 spots. Then there's Fiji, who I feel like get kind of underrated a lot. But Fiji at 1.5% in that pool with Argentina, Spain, and Canada. I feel like they're still a team to watch. Are they better than 1.5% chance to win the World Cup? Because you got to win a quarterfinal, plus a round of 16 game now. Round of 16 game, a quarterfinal, a semi-final, and a final. Yeah, on their day, you feel like Fiji can beat anyone, but to do that back to back to back, may be tough. I want to see Fiji do really well. And then we got the Scots, who are ranked higher than the Fijians, 2.5% in that pool with Ireland again. But yeah, they've actually improved on their odds since the last World Cup ever so slightly. That is all of the Band 2 teams except for Australia, who remember are the hosts. But I got to get to Band 1 first because there is one Band 1 team ranked below a Band 2 team. And I feel like it's going to be one that ruffles a few feathers. It's the Argentinians. Argentinians are given a smaller percentage shot than hosts Australia. Maybe that is just the hosting factor. You may be able to find some bookies which have got it the other way around, but they're all kind of much of a muchness. Yeah, the Argentinians at 4% seem to be underrated, paying $21, whereas the Aussies are at 7% in Pool A with the ABs. Remember, Argentina have got Fiji, Spain, and Canada in their pool. So maybe it's the hosting factor. Maybe it's just previous World Cup wins. But Argentina, you feel like at World Cups, are always really good value. But it's 7% for the hosts. Then we get to these top 5 sides. Can you pick which order they are in next? Well, it doesn't go quite according to the world rankings order because the next one is Ireland. With 11%, they are ranked ahead of the French in Rugby World Rankings. Remember, France's world rankings are always a little bit topsy-turvy with their July side being very different from their Six Nations side in terms of the players that are available. But yeah, Ireland, you feel like their odds being a little bit lower just goes to World Cups not being Ireland's traditional kind of chance to shine. They did shoot up during the last World Cup cycle when we followed it. They went from being like a almost written off 4 years out from the last World Cup, and then they just skyrocketed through the bookies' odds. They were close to one of the favourites at the last World Cup. So 11% is kind of in the middle ground. Then you have France, who were, I think, the favourites come the day before kickoff of the World Cup last time. 15% for the French. Remember, they're not at home this time, but they're also given the same shot as the English on 15 and the All Blacks on 15. So these are your 3 kind of joint second favourites. New Zealand, who kind of seem to be on the slide a little bit. Ireland likewise, and then England, who have had a bit of a meteoric rise in the world rankings since the last World Cup and even just in this year. And that makes you clear favourites, the Boks, at 26%. So more than 10% more favoured than any of the other sides. But you got to remember, if you look at that, you would say there's more chance that the Boks don't win it than do. But they are certainly the most one likely side to win it. As I said, I think at the last World Cup, it was France going into it as favourites. The one before that, I think it was the All Blacks. Neither of those came true. But the Boks into favourites position for the 2027 tournament. How have things changed? At the end of the last World Cup, believe it or not, somehow the Boks were not the favourites. They were slightly behind the All Blacks. Remember, that was end of Ian Foster era All Blacks before we had seen Razor take charge of a game for the ABs. So hopes were high for what trajectory the All Blacks would go on. The Boks were still second favourites, but they've gone up like 6% from 20 to 26. The All Blacks have gone down from 23%, so marginally ahead of the Boks, to 15. So it's a massive drop for them. Much less confidence in the punters for the ABs. England are up from 9 to 15, which reflects pretty good recent form. Ireland are slightly down 13 to 11. France are slightly up 13 to 15. So the big kind of movers and shakers is the Boks are now your clear favourites, and the All Blacks have dropped to a joint favourite with two other teams. Australia are also slightly down. They were 10% at the end of the last World Cup. Their odds have slipped even further. Remember, they got a new coach on the way. Wales are down. Scotland is slightly up. Fiji are slightly down. And Argentina have actually doubled their numbers. Somehow, at the end of the last World Cup, Argentina was still only a 2% team, which is, kind of where Scotland is now. If you were putting money on Argentina to win the 2027 World Cup at the end of 2023 or start of 2024, Argentina were only a 2% shot. So they're up to 4. So Contepomi's got their odds improved, but I still feel like they're really, really underrepresented here. A lot can change in a year or two of rugby, so there's still a lot of rugby to be played between now and then. You think about since the last time we looked at these odds at the end of the World Cup, Borthwick's team has really come good. Russie has elevated to the Boks to a level clearly above all the kind of chasing teams. The All Blacks have slipped back. The Wallabies are going to get a new coach, like I say. So World Cup's not being played tomorrow. We'll have to see how things pan out. You guys let us know your thoughts on who your favourites are. It's obviously South Africa at the minute, but how much further ahead are they? Should they be greater than 26% according to the bookies? You guys let us know your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Take care, and I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.